Let's bring in Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen, Kellyanne Conway, former senior counselor to President Trump and KA Consulting president. She is also a contributor, and David Carlucci, former Democrat New York State Senator. Welcome to all of you. Kellyanne Conway, to you first. Civil war, says the Wall Street Journal, impending. What do you think?
There is a civil war in the Democratic Party, Trace, but it exists between the left and the hard left. We should have seen this brewing for a while. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, they were surging in the 2019 presidential primaries and caucuses. Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton in over 20 contests in 2016. Easy to forget. He got over 13 million votes and softened the ground for us in Trump 2016, where she was already vulnerable. So this is not new. What's new is that it comes in this young, articulate package. I would warn both parties thusly. I'd warn the Democrats, this is not a green light for socialism. We end up with 10 socialist mayors, or communist mayors, as President Trump aptly says, like Zohran Mamdani, and our cities don't just become a punchline with defunding the police and BLM and COVID. We thought 2020, 2021 was the floor. It turns out the bottom may be further than that. And I would warn the Republicans not to cheer on a Mamdani win, to point to that and say this is the new Democratic Party, because we're a 50-50 nation presidentially in most elections. I don't want a socialist and communist president in our lifetime. So these are serious times. And the last thing I'll say is 1% of New Yorkers right now pay 40% of the taxes. They're gone if this guy gets elected. This will hurt the people who work for them and who support the economy that supports the economy.
Yeah, I mean, David, it's a fair point, and Axios kind of doubled down on that, saying, quoting here, enraged Democratic candidates turn on their own leaders. It goes on to say Axios interviewed dozens of Democratic congressional candidates. What was consistent was a notion that the Democratic Party establishment has not met the moment since President Trump returned to office in January, and it signals a headache for Democratic leadership, which may have to grapple with its own version of the Tea Party wave that wreaked havoc on the GOP leadership. I mean, it is a fair assessment to say that the far left of the party has become very powerful. The AOCs and Bernie Sanders of the world, they're the ones that are being brought on CNN for town halls, not a lot of the others in the middle, David.
Yeah, well, there's nothing sexy about moderation, right? So I think either party you're in, the extremes get an overwhelming amount of the attention. But look, I think the Republicans deserve some responsibility in this race. Curtis Sliwa, as you just posted, is polling at about 13%. That is just horrible. And the fact that Republicans are not able to rally behind a candidate that they've put forward really speaks volumes. Just yesterday, you saw every county chairperson or every borough chairperson of the Republican Party supporting Sliwa, asking him to stay in the race, while I think everyone else is saying, what can we do? Let's get him out of the race to consolidate against Mamdani. It makes me question where Trump is on this. Does he want Mamdani to be mayor as a foil? It seems like that is the case, because otherwise we've seen that the power that Donald Trump has, particularly over the Republican Party, and the fact that we would have county chairs put this endorsement out just as we have others asking Curtis Sliwa to step aside is perplexing. And I think they deserve some responsibility here to put forth candidates that can actually win, particularly when you have a candidate that you're so fearful of.
Yeah, Mark Thiessen, weigh in on this for us.
Yeah, so this election reminds me of the 1991 governor's race in Louisiana when David Duke, the former Klansman, was running against Edwin Edwards, who was a disgraced former governor, three-term governor who had been charged, indicted on federal corruption charges. And some voters came up with a bumper sticker that said, "Vote for the crook, it's important." Well, we got a similar bad choice here in New York between a communist, Mamdani, and a sleazy, disgraced former governor. And so my message to New Yorkers is, vote for the sleazeball. It's important.
You know, Kellyanne, look, they're making a fair point if you're on the Republican side of this or Cuomo's side of this. If Sliwa drops out, there's not really, I mean, it's not a big move for Andrew Cuomo, but it's a move, and it could change the race.
Sure. It's a little late for that, though. I mean, look, anything can happen in politics. Early
Yeah.
voting starts this weekend. And I would note that Mamdani consistently polls under 50%. That ain't nothing. So in a mano-a-mano race, that could be true. I actually think that that would have a lot of the business interests come forward and say, we do support Cuomo. We dealt with him as governor. And look, I famously say all the time that voters love to kvetch and complain and converse about what offends them, but they vote according to what affects them. And if you had a Cuomo-Mamdani race, or a Sliwa Mamdani race, frankly, people would say, this is what affects me. And even if I can cast aside what I don't like about this or that and the other and vote according to my pocketbook and my personal liberties. Look, this guy stands with imams and illegals over Israel. It's all you need to know.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, and very quickly, I'd like to get David. Yeah, David, very quickly. I mean, Chuck Schumer said, look, we're talking. So he's still not coming out and supporting Zoran Mamdani. Do you support this guy?
Well, look, the Democrats have a very diverse portfolio of membership, right? And Chuck Schumer's responsibility is to all of New York State and to the whole country as the leader of the Democrats in the minority. So I think that is fair. And some see it as a weakness. I see it as a strength to have this extensive diversity within our party. And what works for New York City is not going to work.
Strength to have a jihadist?
Go ahead, Mark. Yeah, wrap us up.
No, it's the strength. I mean, I'm sorry. This is not a sign of strength for the Democratic Party to have a guy who's palling around with one of the unindicted co-conspirators of the World Trade Center bombing who's about to be mayor of New York.
And so
unindicted. Yeah, come on. He was testifying. He was testifying in favor of the people who were behind the bombing. That he's a communist.
But what
he's a communist. Anyone who says there
is policies that people remember. You go around New York City, people can
globalizing Intifada is his bumper sticker.
He's a communist. He calls himself a democratic socialist. He calls himself a democratic socialist. He calls himself a democratic socialist. You know who else calls him that? The Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. Anytime you see the modifier Democrat behind a country or a candidate, Democratic and socialist, it's communist.
Mark Thiessen, Kellyanne Conway, David Carlucci, thank you all.